Welcome to the second SamChat live with Chris Longa, the acting manager of bus transportation North Base. We'll get started in just a minute, but welcome everyone. We're super glad to have you here. Last week we had an exciting talk, and this week it looks great. Today we'll talk about operations. Next week I think maintenance is on the table, but we'll get started in just a minute, again with Chris. As we're talking today on the side of operations, we'll certainly talk about Chris's background. And then we'll also talk about how operations have changed as a result of the pandemic, of course. Hi, Chris.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome. This is Chris. Just to introduce myself, my name is Mancini. I am a youth ambassador for SamTrans, a student at Sequoia High School, and a big transportation fan, as is Chris, our guest star today. He is the acting manager of bus transportation at North Base. SamTrans is North Base. And his claim to fame, before we get into the operations, is being a transit fan too. Could you tell us, how did you get started working in the transit industry, and what has that led to your position today?
Well, I think my my love for transportation started when I was young. My father worked for Muni for 32 years, and I started my professional career in transportation 20 years ago now at VTA as a bus operator, and moved on here to SamTrans as a bus operator. And just made my climb through the ranks, supervisor, dispatcher, radio controller, assistant manager, and now I'm the acting manager at our North Base facility right now.
So you've done it all.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Wonderful. And on the transportation side of things, I know in your office you're known to have a collection of pins. Could you tell us what does that transportation passion look like beyond just working at SamTrans?
Yeah, sure. I actually own my own bus, which is an ex-retired SamTrans bus that's pretty much 100% authentic to what it looked like when it was in service. Memorabilia is definitely one of my things. I collect old transportation memorabilia. I like to take photographs, and transportation for me is more than just a job. It's a passion.
That's wonderful. I know I see some of our viewers are commenting, which is great. If you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and we can definitely ask, or I'll direct them to Chris. I see in the background there's a mural behind you. I know recently this operation mural was put in. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. This was something that I put some thought into, that I wanted to recognize our bus operators. And so this is a wall that is dedicated to Operators of the Month. And in fact, the mural was painted by one of our own operators. I approached him and had a vision of what it would look like, and he kind of just took off with it. And this is the end result. And operators are very proud of it, especially the ones that are on the wall right now. It's something for them to strive for, and to get picked to be on this wall.
Right. That's wonderful. As a youth ambassador, I had the chance to visit South Base, and I remember before the pandemic, as I'm sure it is now, it was a hub of activity. Are you standing in the operations room or near dispatch?
Yep, this is the operations dispatch area right now. This is where all the operators report to work every day. Because of COVID, we have a lot of restrictions on how many people we can have in here at once. But pre-COVID, there'd be times where you'd have 15, 20 people in here, eating lunch and talking with fellow operators. And so this is our dispatch center. This is where the operators report every morning to get their assignments and get their buses. Yeah, so like I said, a little different right now because of COVID, but we got a lot going on here.
Right. And tell us, I mean, you started to say that, which is great. What is a day in the life of an operator look like when they come in? How are the routes assigned? Tell us, what does that day in the life look like for them?
So as far as a bus operator goes, 3 times a year currently, they pick new assignments based on routing, time, and it's all based on their seniority. And so every 3 to 4 months, they're going to get a new assignment. And there are some operators that choose what we call as the extra board. So they may not have an assigned run every day. They're going to fill in for somebody that's sick or, on vacation, things like that. So they would report to that window in the morning, and they would receive their assignment for the morning. They would get a bus, and then they would go out to the bus yard. They'd find their assigned bus for that day, and they would continue to do a pre-trip. And that's so that the bus is pulled out in a safe manner. Everything's working, and then they would pull out to their first schedule, and they would start their day. Some days could be as long as 13 hours a day. Legal, they're only able to drive for 10 hours behind the wheel, but they have an elapsed time of up to 13 hours.
Got it. Wonderful, and makes sense as far as the route. As a former operator yourself, and obviously working with the operators today, is there some sort of priority? Are certain routes more preferred by the operators from your experience than others?
I would say, our junior operators usually end up out on the ECR. That's probably a less preferred route. It's very long. It's very busy. So there's definitely some routes that are desired by operators that are much easier.
I can imagine, and I know news reports have covered like the 17 or ones on the coast as particularly scenic. I can imagine that. I see your mask, which is great. I can see in the comments everyone loves SamTrans. Tell us how has the pandemic, of course, it's affected everyone. How has it affected the operation side from your perspective?
So it's affected us, but at the same time, it hasn't affected us, right? So there's lots more to do. There's more restrictions. There's added work, but at the same time, nothing's changed as we have to come to work every day, which is a lot different from what other people are experiencing, working from home, and, but for the last year, in transportation, it's business as usual. We've had to adapt to lots of challenges, and it was tough in the beginning, but I think we're in the swing of things now, and we're doing the best we can.
That's wonderful, right? No work from home, I guess, for the operators. Wonderful. And now you're outside, which is great. I know another feature of North Base, in addition to the mural, is a mini electric bus. Or tell us what you're going to show us.
So for some people, they know we've had a mini electric bus for a long time, which was gas powered. And SamTrans looking into the future is looking to go battery electric. So our maintenance folks decided that why not make the minibus electric? So they've done a whole rehab on our go-kart, which I'm going to show you now.
Wonderful. And just to tell the viewers as well, I know it's a bit windy. This was designed originally a mini gas bus changed to electric. Of course, the SamTrans is going sustainable, designed by one of SamTrans operators.
Yeah, so our maintenance trainers are actually the ones that took the go-kart and kind of took it apart, and they actually added a bunch of stuff to it. Now that it's electric, they were able to put some lights on it, and Yeah, it's pretty cool. And as you can see in the background, we have our battery electric bus. This is kind of our pilot program towards going 100% electric. So these buses are out on the road periodically, doing routes all over the county. We have 3 in service right now, and so you can expect to see these out all around the county.
Wonderful. Right. And if you can do an electric go-kart, figuring out electric buses must not be that much more difficult. But tell us about that. What are SamTrans's sustainability goals ultimately, and how are you working towards them?
So ultimately, in the state of California, by 2040, we're required to be 100% zero emissions. So this is part of the program to get to that point. There's a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of details that go along with a battery electric bus that the public probably just doesn't know about. They think we just buy a bus and get out there and run it, but there's lots of challenges turning from a diesel bus to a fully electric fleet. So there's going to be some bumps in the road, but I think eventually we're gonna get to that point.
That's wonderful. And just to the public, these buses are being rotated, so the more you ride SamTrans, better chance you'll have of getting them. And I believe to the go-kart, although certainly correct me, I think in past years at the Hometown Holidays Parade in Redwood City, or the Holiday Lights Parade, it's often there. Is there a chance for the public to view that go-kart at any point?
Yeah, absolutely. When we get back to the point where we can have that event, it'll definitely be out there. That's kind of what we had in mind. Behind the scenes with the go-kart has been some challenges in the parade because it didn't have lights, and getting it back to the Redwood City station, sometimes we would have to have the police escort us back to the station. So with the lights, it may help a little bit.
Right. Better a police escort for this than that's wonderful. Perfect. And I see another operator there. I don't know, is it possible to have our viewers see it live, or tell us who that operator or maintenance person is?
Sure. This is John Roberts. He's one of our maintenance instructors. He was a key person in the rehab of turning this in from gas to electric. And if you have any questions for John, he's more than happy to answer those.
Wonderful. Right. I'm seeing people are adding comments in the chat, which is great. I see perfect some comments. Feel free if any of our viewers have questions, either for John or for Chris, of course, feel free to ask them. Maybe could you, as you worked on transforming this electric, or this minibus into electric, what were some of the challenges?
When we put the bus together, like Chris was saying, it was just a gasoline, like a lawnmower engine. We were lucky enough to have some old, obsolete mobility scooters. So we actually just repurposed the drivetrain and the batteries from that, but we ended up having to actually cut the back half of the frame off and re-weld the frame back together under here, this whole frame back here, to fit the electric motor. And then we put a little bit bigger batteries in, so it goes a little bit further than what the mobility scooter was. And we actually even used the same seat from the mobility scooter. So it was really nice because, again, like I said, we got to use recycled parts, so we didn't have to, actually go out and purchase a lot of parts. We put all the LED lights on it. Now, the speed of it, again, it only goes 5 miles an hour, so it's not really fast, so, nobody can get hurt driving it. The gas-powered one was a little bit too much. It was a little bit too fast. It was a little on the scary side. But this one's really nice. We can, for the parades, we have the speed adjustment, so we can go, at a slow walking pace or a little bit faster walking pace.
That's wonderful.
painted to now match our new paint scheme. It used to have the old SamTrans colors.
Exactly. I see that as a symbol of what's to come, but the sustainability. Yeah, just for viewers, I know it's a bit windy. You can see the new color scheme. And I know some of our viewers have asked about the speed. I think John mentioned, but 5 miles an hour, a bit slower than the former gas one.
Yeah, it's really designed for lower speeds and parades and stuff, so that we can. When it had the gas motor in, it was kind of hard to keep it back in the parades. So this is gonna help with that.
Exactly. It must have been envious of the ECR Rapid. I know a lot of our viewers are transportation fans themselves. Some of them have been asking, is it possible for the public to buy one or to see something like this available? Would something like that ever be possible?
You know, I think this thing's been around since the 80s, and I'm not really sure where it was purchased. Yeah, I really don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's great. Is it possible to take the bus for a little bit of a spin, or
yeah, absolutely. I'll have John get in and he'll drive it around a little bit.
Wonderful. And comfy. I know a lot of our viewers heard this already. Perfect. For viewers just joining us, that is a mini electric bus, originally a go-kart, now designed to be more sustainable, touring North Base, SamTrans' North Base. John is flying.
See if it got reversed.
John's taking it safe, which is appreciated. I know some of our viewers are asking for doing a donut, but that's wonderful.
I think that's against our standard operating procedures.
I would hope. Okay. And I know SamTrans, especially the design buses, all have USB chargers for riders hoping to charge their phones or materials like that. Does this come with all the typical SamTrans features?
So this is something new that we've introduced with the battery electric buses and our new articulated buses. That the buses are now equipped with USB chargers. So this is something that we've heard a lot of feedback from, and that people like, that they can charge their phone on the bus. Again, this is our battery electric bus, 40-foot bus. And again, like I said, we have 3 of them in service right now. Yeah, so these battery electrics and also the new Flyers, the new articulated buses, are USB equipped, and we do have a small fleet of buses that are Wi-Fi equipped also. So we'll probably see that in the future, Wi-Fi on the buses.
That's great. I see a lot of our viewers are commenting too. Absolutely, it's sleek and has a ton of amenities, which is great for riders, especially commuting or doing something else. You can charge your laptop, connect to Wi-Fi from not just the passenger side, but from the operation side of things. How does this new fleet benefit the bus operators themselves?
So our new articulated buses are much different from the older ones. They've been in service for about a year now. They're low floor buses, which speeds up boarding and deboarding, makes it easier to load and unload ADA customers that may be in a wheelchair. It also, one of the big features is it added a third door. So getting on and off the bus makes it a little quicker, that you don't have a lot of people going off the front door. They can go out a mid door. So that was a big change in our articulated bus fleet. And it seems to have really helped during COVID times. At the beginning, when we went to rear door boarding, the rear doors on these buses are a lot wider. So there was definitely some good timing with these buses. These buses are mainly, on the El Camino, which is our workhorse. So these buses are very important to SamTrans because it's our largest, most high performing route. So it helps quite a bit.
That's wonderful, right? That paving its way towards the future. I know I can't tell if this is the New Flyer, the Proterra. Do you happen to know the mileage range for the new electric fleet?
The new electric fleet is we're looking at about 150 miles on a single charge.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Definitely
long enough for quite a few of the routes.
Yep.
Wonderful. And I know you mentioned part of that. Well, actually, I'm viewing our viewers' questions, which is great. Have you had a chance to either try this or sit in the driver's seat and actually test the new buses?
Yeah, absolutely. The battery electric bus is definitely different than anything I've ever driven. It's very quiet. It's definitely something to get used to. The operators are still, getting used to it. There's nothing like, hearing a diesel bus go down the street, in my opinion, and the nostalgic for me. Although these things have quite a bit of pickup, as you can imagine, electric motors are just nothing but torque. So they get them going pretty good.
That's great. Wonderful. And as part of that, from the training and operations side of things, I'm sure bus drivers or bus operators have undergone training related to driving these new electric buses. What does that transition look like for the operators?
So as of right now, we have a small number of operators that are trained on it because it's such a small sub-fleet right now. But they go through normal training on any new vehicle that we get, because every bus that we get is going to have different features and things are going to work a little bit differently. So they get about between an hour and 2 hours behind the wheel before they're going to go out and service on something like an electric bus. Maybe not as much time on a standard diesel bus that's pretty much the same model as what we already have. It may not be as extensive, but with something like this, because it's so different, they're going to get a little bit more time on that. So I would say we probably have about 30 operators that are trained on these electric buses. And currently they're only running out of the North Base facility because that's the only place we have to charge it.
I got it. Wonderful. I know there's quite a few new visitors or new viewers. These are the SamTrans' new electric buses. You can see them, of course, in this video, but you can also see them live in person. They're usually running along ECR, including now, so feel free to ride SamTrans and check that out. I know we're also getting a lot of compliments and praise for our bus operators, or for SamTrans bus operators, of course. Do you know anything about the priority of getting the COVID-19 vaccine for the bus operators?
We don't have a for sure date when we'll receive that. We're still working with the county on when and how we're going to receive them. So when we have more information about that, we'll be able to provide that information to the operators.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I'm seeing too, some of the SamTrans staff are saying originally there was a tier 1B and a tier 2, but when the state removed tier 2, that changed the system. But SamTrans is certainly working, as you said, Chris, to get operators, and in the meantime keep both, of course, the operators, but of course the passengers safe too. Could you remind the viewers what are the safety precautions in place today for passengers related to COVID-19?
Sure, we have in place a maximum capacity. So depending on what size bus you're on, you're limited to how many people can ride on each bus. As you can see in these buses, we've provided a barrier for the operator to protect them from possible exposure to somebody that may have COVID. These barriers are in this position when the passengers are getting on and off the bus. And then once the passengers are all loaded, the operator moves the barrier back for their safety, so that they can see clearly out the doors and see their mirrors. So that procedure is in place right now. If we do reach a maximum capacity on a 40-foot bus or a 60-foot bus, we can put 15 people on an articulated bus. That's our max capacity right now. We have buses staged out in the field that we call standby buses. So if an operator calls up and reports that he's at max capacity, then they'll send out a standby bus to run behind him and pick up the passengers that he's leaving behind.
Wonderful. One way or another, we're getting passengers. SamTrans is getting passengers. That's great. I know I'm a bus fan, and I know you are too. On the side of not necessarily the future, but the past of the Gillig Phantom buses, I know I see a lot of our viewers love those too. Do you have any information? Would touring that ever be available for the public, or is there any chance that those buses might ever come back?
So actually, this Phantom belongs to me. This is my personal bus. So it makes appearances every once in a while. I know when I bring it to the base, all the senior operators are begging me to take it out on the road, and they wish we still had them. But as a kid growing up in San Mateo County, this is what I remember SamTrans looking like. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Could you give us a little bit of a tour, either inside or just walk around the exterior, whatever?
Yeah, sure. I think I had mentioned to you that it's pretty much just like it was when it was in service. It's still got the original fare box. It's still got the original radio, and it looks just like it was when they were roaming the streets. The Gillig Phantoms started their reign in SamTrans in the early 80s and ran all the way up until 2012. So I think for a lot of people that remember SamTrans, this is kind of what they remember.
Absolutely. And that our viewers and myself were yes, absolutely a beautiful piece of equipment. Where does one store a bus like that?
Oh, that's definitely a challenge. It's not like you can park it in your driveway. So yeah, it's I have it stored in an RV lot, and I've had to move it a few times. Real estate is at a premium right now, and people are buying up real estate and building housing. So I've had to move it a few times, and it's actually stored about an hour away from me now, which is kind of a bummer because I just don't get to it as much. But I thought it'd be cool to bring it today and just kind of show everybody.
Absolutely. And that was similar to what, when you were, before becoming the acting manager, an operator, were those the buses you were used to driving?
Yeah, absolutely. I drove this particular bus in service many a times. So for me, it was getting into it kind of takes me back to a time when, I was brand new at SamTrans and actually out there doing the real work that SamTrans provides to the public.
Right. And speaking of which, as far as your past I know in our first SamChat last Friday, there was mention of a SamTrans giveaway pack. We're going to be offering that to one viewer today. If you have been watching the video, early on, Chris mentioned that his dad worked for a transit agency, which ultimately led Chris to start working in transit, and ultimately, of course, he's at SamTrans 20 years later today. If you've been watching this video and you know the name of the transit agency where Chris's dad worked at, feel free to write that in the comments or pose that as a question, and whoever answers that question, you'll be entered for a chance to win. One lucky viewer will receive a SamTrans giveaway pack, so stay tuned for that, and I think there's similar prizes coming in the future. That's wonderful, though. You mentioned, yes, they're tough to get real estate, although for viewers, I think we could all agree housing compared to buses, we'll prioritize the buses. Do you happen to know the mileage on that?
Like the fuel mileage?
Yeah, on the Phantom.
It's not very great. I'm going to guess it's about 7 or 8 miles to the gallon. But it's got a 150-gallon tank, so it can go for a while.
Wonderful. And how many miles was it actually in service in terms of not fuel, but being driven around?
Yeah, so it was about 500,000 miles when it retired. Generally, that's about anywhere from 500 to 750,000 miles is where our buses get when they get retired. Some of them maybe even into the 900,000. Just depends on the type of bus. Like an articulated bus is probably going to have a lot more miles because they're running a stretch of El Camino that takes them all the way across the county. So generally those are going to get more mileage.
Got it. That makes sense, and that's great. I know we're wrapping up. I see a few last questions from viewers. I'll definitely ask that. Feel free, if you have any last questions, to put those in the comments or post them as a question. I have a question just on the bus side of things. Of course, operators need a commercial license. For you, Chris, do you need a commercial license to drive that personal bus?
Technically, I don't, but it's always great to have one. It's not registered as a commercial vehicle anymore, but you know, that's the best way to operate these things is to be a professional and keep a commercial license going.
Right, of course. And on the side of that Gillig name, do you know if SamTrans has any plans to adopt electric buses specifically from Gillig, either now or in the future? Do you by any chance know any information on that?
I think it's still really early in the building of electric buses, and I don't think that they're decided on one manufacturer. I think it's going to take some time to figure out what manufacturer we'll eventually go with. But I think that's more, a lot of it has to do with maintenance. As far as the driver's compartment and the passenger's compartment, you know, operations has a lot of input into that. But as far as mechanically, you know, maintenance is really going to look at, you know, performance and range and, you know, stuff like that before we make a decision on, you know, what's the best bus for SamTrans.
Wonderful. Of course. A few last questions. Do you know, I know there's a lot of fellow transit fans watching today too. Do you know, are there opportunities for the public to gather either within SamTrans or outside of SamTrans? Is there a bus day or an operator's day or something like that?
You know, with COVID going on right now, that's kind of tough. But usually we have our annual rodeo, which, you know, the public is invited to, and families and stuff like that. But that would be, you know, a great opportunity for people to come in. We also had like an event back for our 40th anniversary. So, you know, occasionally we do have events where, you know, the public would be invited to do stuff like that. But currently right now with all the restrictions with COVID, I don't see anything, you know, in the near future until things kind of calm down and vaccines get out.
Right, of course. Well, got it, though. We can all schedule that on our calendars for the future and pay attention to events like that. That is great. It's been great hearing from your history and your dad's history working for Muni. I saw a lot of people comment that, which is great. All the way to today and the future towards the electric buses. That is wonderful. For our viewers, thanks for tuning in. Next Friday we'll have our third SamChat with Dan Lieberman, who works within maintenance at SamTrans. Last week we talked about management. This week, of course, operations, and next week stay tuned for maintenance too. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been great talking to you and hearing how your passion has led ultimately to this career. So thank you so much, Chris, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.